The relay station on Theta 9 hummed with its usual quiet activity. The small moon hung in the darkness of space, its surface covered in endless ice that stretched across every valley and peak. The temperature outside never rose above -180 degrees Celsius. Inside the station, life support systems kept the air at a comfortable 25 degrees. Perfect for the alien crew members who called this place home. Jake Morrison stood in the engineering bay, checking the power readings on his datapad. The numbers looked good. Everything was running smoothly. He had been stationed here for 6 months now, along with 2 other humans. Most of the crew were aliens from warmer worlds. The Velkari were insect-like beings who came from tropical planets. The Norfians needed water and warmth to survive. The Zenthi were reptilian and constantly complained about the cold even inside the heated station. Jake was 32 years old and had grown up in Alaska. He found the station almost too warm most days. He often turned down the heat in his quarters when the other crew members were not looking. Amy Chun sat at her communication console in the main control room. She was 28 and came from Minnesota. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls as she monitored the relay signals that passed through their station. Theta 9 was not exciting, but it was important. Every message that traveled to the outer rim of the galaxy passed through there. Equipment. Ben Carter walked the corridors on his security patrol. At 35, he was the oldest of the 3 humans. He had served in the military before joining the Galactic Coalition. He came from a place called Montana where winter lasted half the year. He nodded to a Valkyrie crew member who skittered past him on 6 legs. Commander Thelver stood in his office, reviewing the daily reports. The Valkyrie commander had led this station for 3 years. He was good at his job and kept everything running well. He trusted his crew, including the 3 humans. They were strange creatures, but they worked hard and never caused problems. The alarm started without warning. Red lights flashed throughout the station. A loud siren echoed in every corridor. Jake looked up from his console as the lights changed. His training kicked in immediately. He pulled up the emergency systems display. "We have a problem," he said into his communicator. "Solar flare just hit us." "Big one." Amy's screen went dark for a moment, then flickered back to life. "I see it. The power grid is failing. Multiple systems are going down." Commander Thelver rushed from his office to the main control room. His antennae twitched with concern. "Report," he demanded. "Solar flare took out the primary power coupling," Jake said, running into the control room. "The backup generators are damaged. I am seeing failures across the whole system." The station shuddered. The lights dimmed. Emergency power kicked in, but it was not enough to run everything. The heating system made a grinding noise and then went silent. "How long until we can repair it?" Delver asked. Jake studied his datapad. His face was serious. "The damage is bad. We need at least 8 hours, maybe more." 8 hours? Dr. Mirakesh, the Norfian science officer, entered the room. Her skin was already turning a darker shade of blue. "Commander, without heat, this station will become deadly in less than 2 hours." Thelver felt a chill run through his body. It was not just his imagination. The temperature was already dropping. He could see his breath in the air. "Begin evacuation procedures. All non-essential personnel to the escape pods immediately." The crew moved quickly. Years of training made the evacuation smooth and organized. Aliens grabbed emergency supplies and rushed toward the docking bay. The Zenthi moved slowly, their cold blood making them sluggish as the temperature fell. Amy monitored the evacuation from her console. "All crew members are accounted for," she reported. "Except for the 3 of us." Commander Thelver turned to look at the 3 humans. They stood calmly in the control room while everyone else rushed around them. "You must evacuate as well." The temperature is at 15 degrees now. In 1 hour, it will be below freezing. Jake shook his head. Someone needs to stay and fix the generators. If we leave, the station is lost. All the equipment, all the data, everything. You will die, Thelver said flatly. No living being can survive in the cold that is coming. Ben had joined them in the control room. He crossed his arms and smiled a little. Commander, with respect, we will be fine. Fine? Dr. Mirakesh could not believe what she was hearing. The temperature will drop to minus 50 degrees. Your bodies will freeze. Your blood will stop flowing. You will die in terrible pain. Amy looked at the other two humans. They both nodded. She turned back to the aliens. We grew up in places where it gets this cold every winter. Jake is from Alaska. I am from Minnesota. Ben is from Montana. We know cold. The temperature display showed 12 degrees now. Delver's body was starting to shut down. His species could not function below 10 degrees. I do not understand. How can you survive temperatures that would kill us in minutes? Earth is different from your worlds, Jake explained. Our planet has extreme weather. Hot summers, cold winters. We evolved to handle it. Our bodies can regulate temperature better than yours. This is madness, Thelver said, but his voice was weak. He was shivering now. I cannot leave you here to die. We are not going to die, Ben said firmly. Trust us. We have done this before. Well, not exactly this, but close enough. Just get your people safety. We will fix the station and call you when the heat is back on. The temperature hit 10 degrees. Thelver could barely think. His crew members were collapsing in the corridors. He had no choice. Very well. But if you feel you are in danger, you must evacuate immediately. That is an order. Understood, Commander, Jake said. The last of the alien crew stumbled onto the evacuation ships. The docking bay doors closed behind them. The ships pulled away from the station and moved to a safe distance. Inside the rescue vessels, the aliens huddled under heating blankets and watched the station through their view screens. Inside Theta 9, the three humans stood alone. The temperature display showed 8 degrees and falling. Jake rubbed his hands together. Okay, let's get to work. Amy, keep the comms open so they can monitor us. Ben, help me gather our gear. We are going to need our winter clothes. Amy sat back down at her console. She could see her breath now. This is going to be interesting. Ben laughed. Interesting? This is going to be easy. Remember that camping trip in Yellowstone when it hit minus 30? That was cold, Jake agreed. This will be colder, but we have buildings and equipment. We will manage. The three humans moved through the station with purpose. They had work to do, and the cold was just getting started. Outside, the alien crew watched and waited. They did not understand how the humans could survive, but they would soon learn that Earth had made humans into something different, something stronger, something that could laugh at temperatures that killed other species. The temperature fell to 5 degrees, then 3, then 0. Inside the station, the humans were just getting started. The evacuation ships floated at a safe distance from Theta 9. Inside the largest vessel, Commander Thelver sat wrapped in 3 heating blankets. His body temperature had returned to normal, but he still felt the ghost of that terrible cold. Around him, the evacuated crew members huddled together, seeking warmth and comfort. Dr. Mirakesh studied her medical scanner. She was monitoring the vital signs of the 3 humans still on the station. This is impossible, she whispered. What is it? Thelver asked, moving closer to look at the screen. Their life signs are stable. The station's internal temperature has dropped to 0 degrees Celsius. Water is freezing, and they are still alive. Not just alive, they are moving around and working. On the view screen, They could see the station through a thermal camera. 3 bright spots of heat moved through the cold corridors. The humans were going about their tasks as if nothing was wrong. Inside the station, Jake pulled on a thick jacket from his personal quarters. He had brought it from Earth, never thinking he would actually need it in space. It was a heavy coat made for Alaska winters, rated to keep a person warm at minus 40 degrees. He added a layer underneath, then another. Thermal underwear, a fleece layer, then the jacket. He pulled a wool hat over his head and put on insulated gloves. Amy was doing the same in her quarters. She smiled as she pulled out her old Minnesota winter gear. Her mother had told her she was crazy to pack it for a space station assignment. "You never know, Mom," she said to herself. She was right. Ben emerged from his room, looking like he was ready for an Arctic expedition. He had layer upon layer of clothing. "Anyone want to go ice fishing?" he joked. Jake laughed. "Maybe later. First, we need to fix this place before the commander has a heart attack worrying about us." The temperature display showed minus 5 degrees Celsius. The 3 humans met in the engineering bay. The room was freezing now. Their breath came out in thick white clouds. Frost was forming on the metal walls. "Okay," Jake said, pulling out his tools. "The main power coupling is fried. We need to replace it completely. The backup generators have damaged wiring. Ben, you work on the generators. Amy, keep communication open and monitor the systems. I will handle the coupling." "Got it," Ben said. He picked up a toolbox and headed deeper into the engineering section. Amy returned to the control room. She sat at her console and opened the communication channel to the evacuation ships. "This is Amy Chun calling the rescue vessel. Can you hear me?" "We hear you," Dr. Mirakesh replied immediately. "Are you well? Your vital signs show you are still active, but the temperature is now minus 10 degrees. "We're fine," Amy said. She took a sip from a thermos of hot coffee she had prepared before the heat failed completely. "Just a little cool. We have our winter gear on." There was silence on the other end. Then Thelver's voice came through, filled with confusion. "You are fine? At minus 10 degrees. Commander, this is warmer than winter back home. In Minnesota, we get down to minus 30 or minus 40 sometimes. Schools do not even close until it hits minus 50 with wind chill." More silence. Amy could imagine the aliens trying to understand what she just said. In the engineering bay, Jake worked on the power coupling. The room had dropped to minus 15 degrees. He could feel the cold now, but it was manageable. He had worked in worse conditions. One winter, he had repaired a broken water heater in an unheated garage in Fairbanks. That had been minus 35 outside, and the garage was not much warmer. His fingers moved carefully, disconnecting the burned-out coupling. The thick gloves made the work harder, but he had practice. You learned to work with gloves in Alaska. If you took them off, your fingers would freeze in minutes. Ben found the backup generators in a room that had dropped to minus 20 degrees. He whistled softly. Now this was getting chilly. He pulled his hat down lower over his ears and got to work. The wiring was melted in 3 places. He would need to replace entire sections. As he worked, he thought about his time in the military. Cold weather training in the mountains. Sleeping in snow caves. Learning to survive when everything around you wanted you dead. The instructors had been tough, but they taught him well. This station was cold, but it had walls and tools and supplies. It was nothing compared to being stuck on a mountainside in a blizzard, on the rescue ship. Dr. Mirakesh was reading everything she could find about Earth. What she discovered horrified her. "Commander," she said, her voice shaking, "I have been researching the human homeworld. It is worse than I imagined." Thelver moved to her station. "Show me." She pulled up a climate map of Earth. "Look at this." Their planet has regions that reach minus 50 degrees Celsius in winter. And humans live there. Not just survive, they live there. They build cities. They raise families. That is not possible, a Zenti crew member said, looking over her shoulder. Nothing can live in such cold. Humans can, Marrakesh said. And they do. There are places called Alaska, Siberia, Canada, Antarctica. Humans work in these places. Some humans choose to live there. Choose? Thelver could not believe it. Why would anyone choose to live in a frozen nightmare? Back on the station, the temperature had stabilized at minus 25 degrees. Jake finished replacing the power coupling. His hands were getting stiff from the cold, even inside the gloves. He flexed his fingers and blew on them, then kept working. How is it going? Amy's voice came through his communicator. Making progress, Jake replied. The coupling is replaced. Now I need to test the connections before we can bring the power back online. How are our friends doing? They are doing research on Earth. I think we are scaring them. Jake smiled. Good. Maybe they will appreciate us more after this. Ben finished the last wire connection on the generators. Engineering to control room. The generators are ready to go. We just need to sync them with the main power grid. Good work, Ben, Amy said. Jake, are you ready on your end? Give me 5 more minutes, Jake said. The 3 humans worked steadily. The cold was getting harder to ignore now. They were all feeling it. Their bodies were working to keep them warm, burning calories and shivering to generate heat. But they were far from danger. They knew the signs of real trouble. Confusion, loss of coordination, extreme drowsiness. None of them felt any of that. On the rescue ship, the alien crew watched the thermal images. The 3 bright spots continued to move purposefully through the frozen station. Dr. Marrakesh had pulled up more information about human biology. Look at this, she said. Humans have something called brown fat. It burns energy to produce heat. They also shiver, which generates warmth through muscle movement. Their blood vessels constrict to keep their core warm. Their bodies have multiple systems just for dealing with cold. We have none of this, Thelver said quietly. Our species evolved on warm worlds. Stable climates. We never needed such things. Earth is not stable, Marrakesh said. It has ice ages and heat waves, storms and droughts. The humans evolved to survive all of it. They are built for extremes. A young Valkyrie spoke up. I read that humans climb mountains for fun. High mountains where the air is thin and the temperature is deadly. They call it recreation. Thelver shook his head. Deathworlders. We knew humans came from a dangerous planet, but I never truly understood what that meant until now. Inside the station, Jake made the final connection. Okay, we are ready. Amy, start the power sequence. Amy's fingers moved across her controls. Starting in 3, 2, 1, now. Deep in the engineering section, the backup generators began to spin. Power flowed through the new coupling. Lights flickered and came back to life. The heating system coughed and started to run. We have power, Amy announced. Heat is coming back online. On the rescue ship, every alien crew member cheered. Thelver felt relief wash over him. The humans had done it. They had survived the impossible and saved the station. The temperature inside Theta 9 began to rise slowly. Minus 20, minus 15, minus 10. The 3 humans gathered in the control room to monitor the systems. Jake pulled off his hat. Well, that was not so bad. Ben grinned. Barely a problem. Amy laughed. Wait until we tell them about the time I went winter camping and the temperature hit minus 40. The 3 humans did not know it yet. But their calm competence in the face of lethal cold would change how the entire galaxy viewed their species. They had just proven that humans were different. stronger, adapted to survive where others could not. And this was just the beginning of the galaxy's education about Deathworlders. The heating system struggled to warm the station. It would take hours to bring the temperature back to normal. The three humans sat in the control room, still wearing most of their winter gear. The room had reached 5 degrees Celsius. To them, it felt like spring was coming. Commander Thilver's voice came through the communication system. The rescue ships are preparing to dock. The heat is rising. We should be able to return soon. Take your time, Commander, Amy said. We are monitoring everything. The station is secure. I must ask, Delver said. How are you still alive? Our medical scans show your body temperature dropped, but you show no signs of the damage we would expect. Jake leaned back in his chair. Our bodies adapted. When humans get cold, we shiver. That movement creates heat. Our blood moves away from our skin and hands to protect our core organs. We have fat that burns just to make warmth. It is all automatic. Dr. Mirakesh's voice joined the conversation. I have been researching your planet. Commander, you need to see what I have found. It explains everything. In the rescue ship, Mirakesh pulled up a presentation on the main screen. The evacuated crew gathered around to watch. They had nothing else to do while waiting for the station to warm up. Earth is classified as a Class 7 death world, Mirakesh began. But I do not think we understood what that truly meant. Look at these climate zones. The screen showed a map of Earth with different colored regions. Blue for cold, red for hot, green for moderate. The blue regions experience temperatures below 0 degrees Celsius for months at a time. Some areas reach -50 degrees or colder. Yet humans live there. There is a place called Yakutsk in Siberia where the average winter temperature is -40 degrees. 50,000 humans live in that city. A Zenti crew member hissed in disbelief. 50,000? They must be trapped there. Surely they do not choose this. They do choose it, Mirakesh said. I found videos of children playing outside in -30-degree weather. They were laughing, building sculptures from frozen water. Humans call it playing in the snow. She showed them images of children bundled in colorful coats, throwing snowballs at each other. Their faces red from cold but smiling. This is madness, someone whispered. Mirakesh continued. But it gets stranger. Humans do not just survive the cold. They use it. They have something called ice fishing. They cut holes in frozen lakes and sit on the ice for hours in -20-degree weather, just to catch food for enjoyment. The next image showed a human sitting on a bucket on a frozen lake, a fishing line dropping into a hole in the ice. The human was drinking something hot from a container and looked perfectly content. Why? Thelver asked. Why would they do this? I do not know, Mirakesh admitted. But there is more. Humans have built permanent research stations in a place called Antarctica. The temperature there can drop to -80 degrees Celsius. They live there year-round, conducting science. She showed pictures of buildings on an endless white plain. Humans in heavy coats working with equipment, smiling for photos in conditions that would kill any other known species in minutes. A young Valkyrie spoke up. I found something called the Iditarod. It is a race. Humans travel over 1,000 miles through frozen wilderness in Alaska. The temperature is often -40 degrees or worse. They do this with animals called dogs, and they do it for sport. The room fell silent. Every alien was trying to process this information. How did they evolve this way? Thelver asked. Mirakesh pulled up a geological chart. Earth goes through cycles called ice ages. Every 100,000 years or so, much of the planet freezes. The last ice age ended only 12,000 years ago. Humans evolved during these cycles. They had to adapt to extreme cold or die. Those who could not handle the cold did not survive to have offspring, so the humans on that station are not special. A Norfian asked, "All humans can do this?" "It appears so," Marrakesh said, "though some are better adapted than others. The three on our station come from regions of Earth that are still very cold. They grew up in these conditions. It is normal to them." Back on Theta 9, the humans were taking a break. They had set up a small heated area in one of the storage rooms using portable emergency heaters. The room was now a comfortable 15 degrees. They removed some of their outer layers and sat down to eat. Ben opened a pack of high-calorie ration bars. "You know what this reminds me of? That winter survival training in the mountains. Remember when they dropped us off in the snow with minimal gear and said, 'Find your way back'?" Jake nodded. 2 days in -20 weather with nothing but a knife, matches, and a tarp. That was rough. "At least we have food and heat here," Amy said. She was eating a ration bar and drinking hot soup from a thermos. "And we do not have to sleep in a snow cave." "Snow caves are warmer than people think," Ben said. "The snow insulates you. I've slept in one when it was -30 outside. Inside the cave, it was only -5. Amy laughed. "Only -5. Listen to us. We sound insane." "We probably are," Jake agreed. "Normal species do not think -5 is an improvement." The communication system crackled. It was Dr. Marrakesh. "Forgive me for interrupting. I have been listening to your conversation. Did you really sleep in caves made of ice?" "Caves made of snow," Ben corrected. "You dig into a snowbank and hollow out a space. Your body heat warms the air inside. It is a basic survival technique." There was a long pause. "Then, why would you need such a technique?" "In case you get stuck in a blizzard," Jake explained. "Or if you are camping in winter. Humans have been doing it for thousands of years. Before we had modern technology, it was how we survived in cold regions." Amy added, "My grandfather told me stories about his childhood in North Dakota. They did not have good heating in their house. On the coldest nights, the whole family would sleep in one room with extra blankets. Sometimes there was ice on the inside of the windows in the morning." "Ice on the inside?" Marrakesh sounded faint. "It was a long time ago," Amy said quickly. "We have better technology now. But yes, humans used to live like that all the time." Commander Thelver's voice joined the channel. "I am beginning to understand why the Coalition recruited humans for difficult assignments. You are built for hardship." "We are built to adapt," Jake said. "Earth taught us that nothing stays the same. The weather changes. The seasons change. You learn to deal with whatever comes. Hot, cold, wet, dry. You adapt or you fail." The temperature in the station had reached 10 degrees now. The alien crew began returning from the rescue ships. They moved carefully through the corridors, still bundled in heating blankets. To them, 10 degrees was barely survivable. They hurried to their quarters to wait for the heat to rise further. Commander Thelver came to the control room. He looked at the three humans sitting there in light jackets, comfortable at a temperature that made him shiver. "I owe you an apology," he said. Jake stood up. "For what, Commander?" "I did not take you seriously when you said you could survive. I thought you were being brave. I did not understand that this is normal for you." Thelver wrapped his heating blanket tighter. "You saved this station. You saved years of data and months of work. And you did it in conditions that would have killed the rest of us. We just did our job," Amy said. "No," Thelver said firmly. "You did far more than your job. You did something impossible. I have contacted Coalition Command. They need to know what happened here today." Ben shifted uncomfortably. "It really was not that big a deal, Commander." "To you, perhaps not," Thelver said. "But to the rest of the galaxy, This is remarkable. Humans are more capable than we realized. Much more capable. Over the next few hours, the station slowly warmed. The alien crew emerged from their quarters as the temperature climbed past 15 degrees. They moved through the corridors with renewed energy, grateful for the heat. The three humans helped where they could, checking systems and making sure everything was working properly. They had removed their heavy coats now. At 20 degrees, they were in t-shirts and comfortable. Dr. Mirakesh approached them in the engineering bay. I have completed my analysis of the incident. Your core body temperatures dropped by 2 degrees Celsius. For my species, a drop of even 1 degree is fatal. Yet you showed no ill effects. We can handle it, Jake said. Humans can survive if our core temperature drops by several degrees. We just get sleepy and slow. It takes a big drop to actually kill us. How big? Mirakesh asked. We start to die around 30 degrees Celsius core temperature, Amy said. Normal is 37 degrees. So we can drop 7 degrees before it becomes critical. Mirakesh made a note on her datapad. Fascinating. My species dies at a drop of 1 degree. The Valkyrie at 2 degrees. The Zenthi at less than 1 degree. Humans are 3 to 7 times more resistant to cold than any species I know. Evolution, Ben said simply. We needed it to survive, so we developed it. As the station returned to normal operations, word of what happened began to spread through the coalition network. 3 humans had survived 8 hours in temperatures that would kill most species in minutes. They had worked calmly and efficiently in a frozen environment. They had saved a critical relay station without complaint. The galaxy was learning that humans were different. And this lesson was just beginning. The temperature reached 25 degrees Celsius. The alien crew. 3 days after the crisis, life on Tet-9 had returned to normal. The heating systems ran smoothly. The power grid was stable. The relay station continued its important work of routing communications across the galaxy. But something had changed. The alien crew members looked at the 3 humans differently now. There was a new respect in their eyes. Sometimes there was also fear. Jake noticed it first. He was walking down a corridor when a young Valkyrie crew member jumped aside to let him pass. The alien pressed against the wall, antennae quivering. You can walk normally, Jake said gently. I do not bite. I know, Engineer Morrison, the Valkyrie said quickly. I just wanted to show respect. You saved us all. Jake felt uncomfortable with the attention. He had just done his job. Any human would have done the same. He continued to the engineering bay, wondering how long this would last. In the communication center, Amy was dealing with a flood of messages. News of the incident had spread through the coalition. Other stations wanted details. Scientists wanted data. Medical officers wanted to study human cold resistance. This is getting out of hand, she muttered to herself. Ben entered the room carrying a datapad. You think this is bad? I just got a request from Coalition Command. They want to assign human crew members to every Ice Moon station in the Outer Rim. How many stations is that? Amy asked. 47, Ben said. And they only have 200 humans in the entire Coalition fleet. We are going to be spread thin. Commander Thelver called a station meeting that evening. The entire crew gathered in the common room. The Valkyrie, Norfians, and Zenthi sat on one side. The 3 humans sat on the other. The division was not intentional, but it was there. I have received new orders from Coalition Command, Thelver began. Due to the events of 3 days ago, there will be changes to how we operate this station. The crew waited silently. First, the 3 human crew members are being officially designated as emergency response specialists. In any future crisis involving environmental systems, they will take the lead. Jake started to object, but Thelver raised a hand. Second, all crew members will undergo training to better understand human capabilities and limitations. We must know what our human colleagues can and cannot do. Dr. Mirakesh stood up. If I may add, Commander, I have prepared educational materials about Earth and human evolution. I believe it will help everyone understand our human friends better. Excellent, Thelver said. Third, and most important, I want to make something clear to everyone. The humans saved this station and possibly our lives. But they are still our colleagues, our friends, our equals. Treat them with respect, yes, but do not treat them as if they are strange or frightening. They are part of our crew. There was a murmur of agreement from the alien crew members. After the meeting, several aliens approached the humans with questions. A young Norfian named Keleth was particularly curious. Is it true that human children play outside when it is freezing? Keleth asked Amy. Amy smiled. Yes, when I was a kid in Minnesota, we would build snowmen and have snowball fights. Sometimes it was minus 20 degrees, and we would stay outside for hours. Did your parents not worry you would die? Keleth's concern was genuine. They made sure we wore warm clothes, Amy explained. Layers of fabric to trap heat. Insulated boots. Hats and gloves. As long as you dress properly and do not stay out too long, it is safe. Even fun. I cannot imagine finding cold fun, Keleth said quietly. Ben joined the conversation. It is what you grow up with. To me, snow is normal. Beautiful, even. When I was a kid in Montana, I loved winter. We would go sledding down hills. That is when you slide down snow-covered slopes on a piece of metal or plastic. For enjoyment? Keleth sounded amazed. For enjoyment, Ben confirmed. Humans do a lot of things for enjoyment that other species might find strange. Over the next few days, Dr. Mirakesh held training sessions for the crew. She explained human biology, showing diagrams of how human bodies regulated temperature. She showed videos of Earth's different climate zones. She shared cultural information about humans living in cold regions that the crew watched in fascination as Mirakesh showed them ice hockey, a sport where humans skated on frozen water and hit a rubber disc with wooden sticks. They saw skiing, where humans slid down mountains on two narrow boards. They watched footage of the polar bear plunge, where humans jumped into near-freezing water for charity. They do this voluntarily? Azanthi asked in horror. They raise money for good causes, Mirakesh explained. And apparently, some find it enjoyable. Jake, Amy, and Ben sat in the back of the training room, watching the presentation. They had not realized how strange their normal activities would seem to aliens. We really do sound crazy, Amy whispered. Maybe we are, Jake whispered back. But it works for us. 1 week after the incident, a new problem arose. The station's external sensor array needed repairs. The equipment was located outside the station, on the surface of Theta 9. The temperature outside was minus 160 degrees Celsius. Even the best coalition environmental suits could only protect the worker for 30 minutes at that temperature. Commander Thelver looked at the repair schedule with frustration. We need 3 hours minimum to fix the array. Even with 2 workers rotating every 30 minutes, we would need 6 people. And the cold would still be dangerous. Jake studied the technical specifications. What if we modified one of our human suits? We have experience working in extreme cold. With the right modifications, we might be able to work longer. Absolutely not, Thelver said immediately. I cannot ask you to risk your life again. You are not asking, Ben said. We are volunteering. This is what we do, Commander. Dr. Mirakesh ran the numbers. Even with modifications, the suit would only protect you for 90 minutes. And that is in theory. The cold outside is far worse than what you experienced inside the station. Amy looked at the other two humans. 90 minutes is enough if we work fast. 2 of us could do it. No, Culver said firmly. I will not allow it. Commander, Jake said respectfully, we appreciate your concern, but this is our job. We signed up for this. Let us do what we are trained to do. The argument went back and forth for an hour. Finally, Culver agreed, but only under strict conditions. The humans would have medical monitoring at all times. They would work in 30-minute shifts. If any sign of danger appeared, they would abort immediately. 2 days later, Jake and Ben suited up for the external repair. They wore specially modified environmental suits with extra insulation. Medical sensors covered their bodies. 3 medics stood by with emergency equipment. Amy would stay inside, monitoring their vital signs and coordinating the work. The airlock opened. Jake and Ben stepped out onto the surface of Date 9. The cold hit them like a physical force. Even through the suit's insulation, they could feel it. The suit's heaters worked at full power, struggling against the terrible cold. Temperature reading is -160, Ben said, his voice calm in the helmet communicator. Suit temperature holding at 0 degrees. This is manageable. Inside the station, Amy watched their vital signs carefully. Heart rates were elevated but steady. Core temperatures were stable. You are looking good. Proceed with the repairs. Jake and Ben moved to the sensor array. Their movements were careful and deliberate. The cold made everything harder. Tools were harder to grip. Connections were harder to make. But they kept working. 15 minutes in, Jake's fingers started to feel numb despite the heated gloves. Getting some numbness in my hands. Nothing serious yet. Noted, Amy said. You have 15 more minutes, then you need to come in and warm up. They worked steadily. Ben replaced damaged power cells while Jake rewired the connection ports. The cold was intense, but they had both experienced cold before. This was worse, yes, but not impossible. At 28 minutes, they completed the first phase of repairs. Coming back in, Jake announced. They cycled through the airlock and removed their helmets. Both were breathing hard. Their faces were red from the cold. But they were smiling. That was cold, Ben said. Really cold, Jake agreed. But we did it. Dr. Mirakesh scanned them with her medical equipment. Core temperature dropped 1 degree. Slight decrease in extremity temperature. But you are within safe limits. Remarkable. On the bridge, Commander Thelver watched the data with amazement. They worked in -160 for almost 30 minutes. My species would be dead in 3 minutes at that temperature. Humans are built for extremes, Mirakesh said. We are just beginning to understand how extreme. Jake and Ben made 2 more trips outside. Each time, they worked for 30 minutes in the lethal cold. Each time, they came back safely. By the end of the day, the sensor array was fully repaired. The crew celebrated that evening with a special meal. Thelver stood and raised his glass. To our human crew members, he said, who continue to do the impossible and make it look easy. It was not easy, Jake said honestly. It was hard, cold, dangerous, but it was possible. That is all that matters. Later that night, Amy sent a message back to Earth. She told her family about the repairs, about working on the frozen moon, about the aliens learning to understand humans. Her mother's response came the next day. Sounds like another Tuesday in Minnesota. Stay warm, honey. Amy laughed. Her mother was right. For a human from Minnesota, working. 6 months passed since the heating crisis on Date 9. The story of 3 humans surviving in lethal cold had spread throughout the Galactic Coalition. It became legend. Other species told the tale in whispers, adding details that were not quite true, making the humans seem almost supernatural. Jake Morrison was tired of being treated like a hero. He sat in the station's common room, reading a message from Coalition Command. They wanted him to transfer to a new ice moon station that was being built. They needed experienced humans who could work in extreme cold. Another request? Amy asked, sitting down across from him. The fifth one this month, Jake said. They want me on Epsilon 12. The surface temperature there is minus 200 degrees. Are you going to take it? Jake shrugged. I do not know. I like it here. The crew has finally stopped treating us like we are made of magic. It was true. Over the past months, the alien crew members had relaxed around the humans. They still respected what the humans could do, but they no longer feared them or treated them as strange. They were just crewmates again. Ben entered the room carrying a datapad. You two need to see this. Coalition News is doing a documentary about Deathworld species. Guess who they want to interview? Please tell me it is not us, Amy said. It is definitely us, Ben confirmed. They are sending a film crew next week. Jake groaned. Can we say no? We can, Ben said. But Commander Thelver thinks we should do it. He says it will help other species understand humans better. Maybe reduce the fear and rumors. The film crew arrived on schedule. They were a mixed group of species, led by a Volcari director named Zifkar. He was excited and nervous at the same time. Thank you for agreeing to this interview, Zifkar said, setting up his equipment in the common room. Your story has captured the imagination of the entire galaxy. People want to understand how you survived. We just did our job, Jake said, for what felt like the 1000th time. But it was impossible, Zifkar insisted. Every species we asked said that no living creature could work in such cold. Yet you did. How? Amy took a breath. We are from Earth. Our planet is harsh. It has hot deserts and frozen tundras, violent storms and calm days. Humans evolved to handle all of it. What you call impossible, we call Tuesday. Zifkar loved that line. He made her repeat it 3 times for the camera. The interview lasted for hours. The film crew asked about Earth, about human biology, about growing up in cold climates. They wanted to know everything. Tell me about your childhood, Zifkar asked Amy. What was it like growing up in a frozen place? Amy thought back to Minnesota. Winter was my favorite season. The snow was beautiful. Everything was clean and white. My brother and I would build forts out of snow. We would have battles, throwing snowballs at each other. My mother would make hot chocolate, and we would drink it while sitting by the fire. You found beauty in the cold? Zifkar seemed amazed. Of course, Amy said. Cold is not evil. It is just weather. You dress for it. You prepare for it. And then you enjoy it. Ben talked about Montana. He described ice fishing with his father. Sitting on a frozen lake, waiting for fish to bite. The quiet peace of winter. The way the stars looked on clear, cold nights. Jake shared memories of Alaska. The northern lights dancing in the winter sky. The sound of snow crunching under boots. The way smoke rose straight up from chimneys when the air was very cold. The film crew was mesmerized. They had never heard anyone speak of cold with love before. But it is dangerous, yes? Zifkar asked. People die in the cold on your world? Yes, Jake admitted. If you are not careful, if you are not prepared, cold can kill. Humans respect it. We do not take it lightly, but we also do not fear it. We have lived with it for thousands of years. We know how to survive. The documentary team asked to film the humans in a cold environment. Commander, Delver set up a test. They would lower the temperature in one storage bay to minus 30 degrees. The humans would demonstrate how they worked in such conditions. When the day came, the alien crew gathered to watch. The storage bay was cleared of equipment. Temperature controls were adjusted. The room began to cool. At 10 degrees, The aliens started shivering. At 0, they retreated to the observation window. At -10, they wore heating blankets. At -20, some could barely watch. The humans entered the storage bay, wearing their winter gear. They looked comfortable. They began a series of tasks, moving boxes, repairing equipment, writing notes on datapads. The film crew recorded everything. The humans worked smoothly. They talked and joked with each other. After 30 minutes, they emerged and removed their jackets. "How did that feel?" Sifkar asked. "Cold," Ben said honestly, "but not dangerously cold. We could have worked longer if needed." Dr. Mirakesh presented her findings to the film crew. She showed human biology scans, temperature resistance data, evolutionary history. She explained how Earth's ice ages shaped humanity. Humans are not invulnerable, she explained. They can die from cold just like any species. But their tolerance is far beyond what we considered possible. They have biological and cultural adaptations that let them thrive in environments we find lethal. The documentary team spent a week on Theta 9. They interviewed the entire crew, getting perspectives from different species. Everyone agreed. The humans had changed how they viewed the universe. Before the crisis, Commander Thelver said to the camera, "I thought I understood humans. They were our allies, our friends. But I did not truly comprehend what it meant that they came from a death world. Now I do. Humans are survivors. They adapted to a planet that tried to kill them in every way possible. And they did not just survive. They thrived. That is their strength." The documentary aired 3 months later. It was called Deathworlders, the human story. Billions of beings across the galaxy watched it. The response was overwhelming. Some species were frightened. They worried about human strength, human resilience. But most were fascinated. They wanted to learn more. They wanted to work with humans, to understand them better. Job offers flooded in. Every cold environment station wanted human crew members. Research facilities in harsh conditions requested human scientists. Exploration missions to frozen planets needed human expertise. Coalition Command created a new division, Extreme Environment Operations. Humans were put in charge. Their job was to train other species, to share knowledge, to help the galaxy expand into places previously thought uninhabitable. Jake, Amy, and Ben remained on Theta 9. They had become symbols, but they were still just engineers and specialists doing their jobs. They turned down most of the interview requests. They ignored the fan messages. They focused on their work. One evening, a year after the original crisis, the 3 humans sat in the observation lounge. They watched the stars and the ice moon's frozen surface below. "Do you ever regret it?" Amy asked. "That day we stayed behind?" Jake shook his head. "No, we did what needed to be done. Same as we would do back home." "The galaxy treats us differently now," Ben observed. "They understand us better," Jake said. "That is good. But we have not changed. We are still just people from Earth trying to do our jobs." Amy smiled. "People from Earth who can work in -160-degree cold. When necessary," Jake added. "It is not like we enjoy it." Ben laughed. "Speak for yourself. I kind of miss winter back home. All this comfortable warmth gets boring." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside, Theta 9 continued its orbit. The ice stretched endlessly across the moon's surface. The temperature remained at -180 degrees. "You know what I have been thinking about?" Amy said. "My niece back on Earth. She is 7 now. She asked me in her last message if it is true that I am famous for being cold. What did you tell her?" Ben asked. "I told her the truth. That I just wore a warm coat and did my job. That anyone from Minnesota could have done the same. That being from Earth makes you strong, whether you know it or not." "Good answer," Jake said. Far across the galaxy, in Coalition headquarters, officials were discussing new policies. Human cold resistance had opened up new possibilities. Planets previously ignored because of harsh climates were now being considered for colonization. Research stations could be built in frozen regions. The galaxy was expanding because humans had proven that cold was not a barrier. But on Theta 9, the 3 humans who started it all just wanted to finish their shifts and get some sleep. "I have duty in 6 hours," Ben said, standing up. "I am going to bed." "Same," Amy agreed. Jake stayed a bit longer, looking at the stars. He thought about home, about Alaska and winter and the northern lights. He thought about how strange it was that doing something normal, something any human could do, had changed how aliens saw his species. But mostly, he thought about how cold was just cold. Temperature was just temperature. You dressed for it, you dealt with it, and you moved on. That was the human way. That was the Earth way. He stood and headed to his quarters. Tomorrow would be another day on Theta 9. There would be work to do, systems to maintain, problems to solve. And if something went wrong, if the heat failed again, well, they would handle it, because they were human. And humans had been handling the impossible for thousands of years. The documentary's final line echoed across the galaxy. To most species, freezing to death is the most terrible fate imaginable. To humans from Earth, it is just another challenge to overcome.